Okay, so you should have completed your equations practice test yesterday or this morning and checked it with the key. And then hopefully you're here just to kind of like walk through the ones that you missed. So number 1 was a one-step equation, right? The way to undo multiplying by 5 is to divide by 5. Negative 30 divided by 5 is negative 6. Okay, number 2 is a one-step equation. The opposite of subtracting 8 is adding 8. So x equals 5. 5 minus 8 is negative 3. Number 3 is a two-step. I'm going to add 5 to both sides first. So now I have 4x is 24. Then I'm going to divide by 4. So x would equal 6. 4 times 6 is 24. 24 minus 5 is 19. Number 4 is when you have variables on both sides of the equal sign. I do not want these 3 x's over here. So I'm going to get rid of them by subtracting. 10x minus 3x is 7x. Right? So it canceled out this part. I left the 5, I didn't add anything to it, and then over here I still have 19. So now I'm going to subtract 5 to get 7x equals 14, and then when I divide both sides by 7, I get x equals 2. Number 5, the opposite of subtracting 2 over 3 is to add 2 over 3. So now what I need to look at is, okay, well, what would be a common denominator between 8 and 3? That's 24, so this fraction is going to get multiplied by 3. This second fraction is going to get multiplied by 8. So I have x equals 21 over 24 plus 16 over 24. When I add 21 and 16, that's 37 over 24. 24 goes into 37 one time with 13 24ths left over. So that is my answer. Okay, number 6. When you're multiplying by a fraction, you multiply both sides by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 5 over 4. 5 and 5 cancel, 4 and 4 cancel. X equals 1 times 5 is 5, 2 times 4 is 8. So x equals 5 over 8. Number 7, okay, it's a two-step equation with a fraction, so let's look at it. I'm going to add 4 to both sides. So now I have 2/3 x equals 14. So now I need to multiply both sides by the reciprocal, right, by 3 over 2. So 3 and 3 cancel, 2 and 2 cancel. 2 goes into 14 7 times. So I'm left with x equals 7 times 3 is 21. And on the bottom it was 1 times 1, which is 1. Okay, number 8 is one of the ones where we're going to combine our like terms first. 7x minus 2x is 5x plus 5 equals negative 35. So now I want to subtract 5 from both sides. So I get 5x equals negative 40. So x would equal negative 8. And then number 9 is a distributive property problem. I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by negative 8 before I start. So that cancels out. 2x plus 4 equals negative 8. 64 divided by 8 is 8. A positive divided by a negative is a negative. So now we're going to subtract 4 from both sides. 2x is negative 12. Divide both sides by 2. X is negative 6. And that's my answer. Okay, so there's 9 kind of equations that we did. And so these are the exact kinds of equations that are going to be on your test. And your test will be a Google form, I'm pretty sure. I just did it like this so that you could have space to work it out and I could show you how to work them out. So it kind of repeats itself with the kinds of equations. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 3. Negative divided by negative is positive. x equals 5. Subtract 4, negative 6 minus 4 is negative 10. On number 12, it's a two-step. I'm going to add 2 to get 3x is 12. Then I'm going to divide by 3 to get x equals 4. And then on 13, variables are on both sides of the equal sign. I do not want variables over here. So I'm going to add 2x. The reason I'm adding is because this was a negative. So now I have negative 5x plus 4 equals 14. I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. Negative 5x is 10. And then divide by negative 5 to get x is negative 2. Number 14, the opposite of adding is subtracting. So I'm going to subtract 5 over 6. Common denominator between 4 and 6 is 12. So this is times 3. This is times 2. So x equals 9 over 12 minus 10 over 12. They have the common denominator, so I just do the operation with the numerator. 9 minus 10 is negative 1 over 12. Okay, 15. If it's being multiplied by a fraction, you multiply both sides by the reciprocal. So I multiply both sides by 3 over negative 2. So that cancels out. Over here, I'm left with x equals, I can go ahead and reduce first. So 2 becomes 1, 4 becomes 2, right? I divided them both by 2. 2 times 3 is 6. 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. How many times can 5 go into 6? One time with 1 left over, and it was negative. So negative 1 and 1/5. 16 is a two-step with a fraction, so we're going to add 2 to both sides first. Negative 3/5 x equals negative 11 plus 2 is negative 9. So now I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal. 5 over negative 3. Okay, so 5 and 5 cancel. Negative 3 and negative 3 cancel. X equals. So on the right, I can simplify negative 9 and negative 3, right? First of all, a negative times a negative is going to be a positive. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. And then 3 times 5 is 15. And the denominator is 1. On number 17, negative 3x plus 6x is just 3x minus 10 equals 5. Then we're going to add 10 to both sides to get 3x is 15, and then divide by 3 to get x is equal to 5. And then last, on 18, I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 2, which leaves me with 6x minus 1 equals 11. Now I'm going to add 1 to both sides. 6x is 12, and then divide both sides by 6 to get x equals 2.